Pat Nevin, you're with us. Hello.
Hello, how you doing, lads?
Good. So, Chelsea. This is interesting, isn't it? Maurizio Sarri, ahead of schedule, has realised that this Chelsea dressing room can be temperamental. Conducted his interview in Italian, had his translator with him because, quote, "I want to send a message to my players and I want my message to be very clear. I'm really angry about the approach we adopted today," said Sarri. "It's an approach we can't accept. I have to say, I'm extremely angry, very angry indeed." He was very measured as he said all this, if you didn't see the actual video. This defeat was due to our mentality, more than anything else. This is something I can't accept. And then, this group of players are extremely difficult to motivate. And that was Maurizio Sarri at the weekend. The great cliche, the great cardinal sin, criticising your players publicly. Chelsea dressing room has a history of not reacting terribly well to this. Why do you think Sarri elected to go public?
I think, well, it is a bit of a nuclear option, you know, when you go down that route. I think most people know that. The thing is, the players know that too. So if you feel that you're not getting everything out of the dressing room, you've tried everything in your armoury, and you go for that one, you expect to make either a massive difference or else find out you're going to be undermined. And you're going to find that out over the next couple of weeks. If he's going to get the right reaction to it, the one that he wants to it. A lot of people have been brave enough to say that sort of thing. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a lot down to the group. It's a lot down to the strength of the character of the manager as well. The lads will go and talk to each other, imagine, about that. Have a few words with each other. And that doesn't matter. It's what they then do after that. You'll probably be able to gauge it before Thursday night, before the game against Spurs in the Carabao Cup, which is actually now quite a big game for Chelsea. What they've got on their side is that Spurs have got a lot of injuries, as we know. And if they have a reaction, they play well, they do well, they overturn that 1-goal deficit. Strangely, those kind of comments will be put on the side burner, you know, the back burner for a wee while. But it's a big old comment to make. And you get a feeling that he's looked around and thought, right, there's one or two here that I might want to move on or aren't going to do it for me when I really need them to. There's lots and lots of chat about Alvaro Morata leaving just now, but he wasn't on the pitch for that game. Yeah. So it leaves it up there. Who is he actually talking about? What individuals are they talking about? And if they do turn on him, then it's curtains for him. But we don't know if they're going to turn on him yet. Yeah.
I wonder how this will go down around Stamford Bridge. I wonder what Roman Abramovich will make of it, the fans generally, because he's the latest in a long line, you know, who've just found this dressing room particular. You know, Antonio Conte, I would think, in his second season, couldn't quite believe the way it all fell down around him, fell out with Eden Hazard. Hazard complained about playing as a false nine, and Conte just seemed to lose the dressing room there. Jose Mourinho most certainly lost the dressing room a year after winning the title and criticised various players publicly. Felipe Scolari seemed to lose the dressing room. Avram Grant seemed to be almost tolerated by the dressing room. He was sort of allowed to stand near them when they were having their huddle at key moments. Andre Villas-Boas seemed to fall out with several players, Nicolas Anelka. There was a falling out with Drogba as well, Gary Cahill. I read a report in The Guardian that around that time as well, Roberto Di Matteo, Roman Abramovich felt was unpopular with the players. Like, you would have to look at that dressing room and question it in a big way, and over several cycles of players now, there's potentially something quite rotten there, or if that's too harsh, there's certainly an element whereby they pick and choose their managers and when they want their managers.
Yeah, you're talking about the dressing room there. Yeah. And you make a very good point about several generations of players, because it's got to be in the structure of the thing, because it's not the same group of players. It's lots of different guys in there. And it may well be the types of players some of the times they get. It's almost, they're not quite a Galacticos type club, but as closest to that as you get in English football. So when you get a group of Galacticos as are big stars together, and they're not pulled together as generally a group by a manager, but just kind of shoved together, you know, not necessarily always the manager that, or the current manager that's actually acquired them. You don't know how the personalities are going to go together. But every manager has got to fight that. Yeah. Every manager has got to try and put his authority on it. Oddly enough, Ancelotti, going back to him, he was one that seemed to be liked a lot by just about everyone. And funnily enough, Rafa Benitez was taken on well by most of them. But remember, they weren't considered long-term managers, I don't think, at the time. So it's a kind of strange thing, but what the club could throw back at you quite easily is, oh yeah, we've had all these managers, we've had all these problems, and we've also had all these trophies as well. So as a system, you think it might not be, the cheeriest and the easiest a lot of the time, and it might kind of bomb every 2 or 3 years. It didn't have to start up again really well. And at the moment, it looks like they're right in the midst of a massive change. Obviously, they brought in Pulisic. They're going to. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow morning or next morning they had another striker in, 1 or 2 other changes. And I think you have to look at who those are. The ones that come in, are they coming in from the manager, or are they coming in from the club via the manager, or has the manager nothing got to do with them? If the manager gets his guys in, and I suspect Higuain might be one of them, then he's got a good strong hand again, and he can push forward at least until the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Pat, you mentioned that there's been a lot of turnover there, and there's a question of the Galactico figure, and I suppose like Hazard is the one name that stands out. He has been there for a couple of the cycles, and like, I don't know what you've made of him this season. He's played as a striker for the last couple of games. He looked like he might leave last summer. There was talk about it. I mean, what's your take been on his contribution this season? Because it seems sometimes, I don't know, how he plays can sometimes be a barometer for how the team is faring, and I don't know how you feel he has actually contributed this season.
I think I would take the word sometimes out of that sentence you said that.
Yeah.
I think when he plays, the team play. When he looks dynamic, the team looks dynamic. If he's not having as good a game, or if he's a little bit quieter, or it was a game I went to see recently, they played against a 3 at the back, and he was up against 3 centre forwards, centre halves. He never got a touch, other than the one touch that laid on Willian's goal. So, it's tough for him playing that position. He's not natural in that position. The thing about him is, if you look at his stats, his goals and his assists, they're up there. They're good enough. They're absolutely fine. But he's not doing it every second of every game, and certainly not doing it in every single game. And a lot of people, including myself, have watched games and thought, right, get him out of that centre-forward position now. It's not working. Put anybody up there, just you be it Giroud, whatever, just to take care of the centre-backs and get him out wide where he's at his very, very best. In simple terms, Eden Hazard is a better player running towards the goal than he is when he's back against the goal. It's not overcomplicated. He can do the job. He's all right, but he's not world class at that. However, he is world class when he's in that other position. He's running at players. So I think it's a short-term thing. I think it's one of those things where needs must stuck him up there for a period of time, hoping that he get to the transfer window and get the centre forward, and that he wanted to. And we were chatting over the last few weeks here about the right one, and I've always thought an Aguero type player would be the right type of player for that system. Well, if it is Higuain, he is kind of an Aguero type player, and it kind of suit well. I don't know if you remember the other week we were chatting about it. The player I said that I thought we should go for would be Piatek, who's a stronger player, a much more physical player, but still scoring goals. Well, it looks like he might take the place of Higuain if Higuain goes, which makes you think, should you not have just gone for Piatek?
Yeah. I do want to ask you about...
Much younger, by the way, 23 as well, which makes a big difference.
Okay. It seems AC Milan want to replace Higuain before they release him at the moment. That's where things are, so we'll see how that goes. I do want to ask you about what's happening on the pitch and what you make of Sarri Ball and Kante and Jorginho and how it is all working. But just one last broader question on things. So... do you ever look at Chelsea and just feel a bit disheartened? Do you ever think this is the complete blossoming and culmination of where football is heading in all the bad ways? So you made the point they win things, and I accept that. So you have to say in some ways it works, and yet, Chelsea never intrigued me. I have to say, I don't want to break your heart here, but like they never really. I never care about Chelsea in any kind of way because what they're doing is never meaningful because it's going to blow up within 12 months at the most. So whether they're going well or going badly, I don't particularly care. I do have real issues with the way the culture in that dressing room over successive generations. Roman Abramovich of late, his interest levels are questionable. there is just something very soulless. It's kind of a fast food approach. There is no journey. You know, I look at what Arsenal did with Wenger, and I kind of feel, well, at least they stuck by him, even if it was for, you know, financial reasons in the end and wrong reasons. But I feel like they're on something with Emery. I feel that Liverpool are trying to do something, build something with Klopp. I feel like Manchester United would like to build something. I never feel like Chelsea are trying to build anything. It is fast food. It's a bit soulless. It's mercenary, and I'm very glad I don't support them. So I don't know, do Chelsea fans feel that way?
Don't mince your words, would you? Right, number of things. I think the soul of that core team that had, you know, certainly John Terry at the back.
I love that team. I was with that team. I was interested in that team.
And that's what you kind of end up gauging it by, and most people gauge it by, and many Chelsea fans of the modern era gauge it by, and that's a hard team to mimic, you know, because Drogba up front, that whole core of that thing was pretty special, but. You know, that's once in a couple of generations, maybe certainly more than that for Chelsea as a football club. Oddly enough, the soulless thing, I think Abramovich has been trying his damnedest to get rid of that, because he always wanted his managers to be much more attack-minded. He brings in Jose Mourinho, and he wants it to be much more attack-minded, but in the end, it didn't become that way, certainly in the second part of the second period of time there. But he's desperate to something that was modern. Now, if you looked at Sarri before he came to Chelsea, you think, right, okay, it's actually quite intelligent football. It's pretty, it's nice, it's on deck. It's kind of pretty modern, you know, and I would suggest for the first, 13, 14 games, 15 games this season, I was thinking, I'm liking this. It could be doing with a bit more dynamism, you know, but that'll come. It's just this last wee while, we've seen plenty of it, and the dynamism isn't there in the last third. And you're thinking, well, this is getting a wee bit dull, a bit predictable, a bit obvious. Well, another situation might be, how long's Sarri been there? 6 months. Right, he actually inherited an entire team that wasn't his team. He only brought in one guy, Jorginho. Now, he's getting a bit of moan up about him just now. But in the end, if he gets 2 or 3 players in, and say one of them is this very attack-minded striker who's intelligent and moves quickly and allows Hazard to go and play where he wants to play, and the next guy that comes in is Pulisic, who actually is a lovely player to watch. I don't know if he's going to be a huge success, but he's a joy to watch. And a really fast player, a really skillful player. It may well be it takes a wee while to turn that sort of thing round. But at the moment, for the first period of the season, I have to say the Chelsea fans and being at the games were loving it. Absolutely loving it. And it's just this little period of time. Now, I would cast your minds back. People do have very short memories and things. Chelsea, remember where they are in the league just now, and it's downtime for them. It's really gloomy. Before you come in there, I'm sitting writing an article for the Chelsea website saying that word. It's hell of a gloomy here. Have a wee look around. 7 games ago, what was it looking like at Manchester United? Have a wee look around what it looked like. It's what it's looking at Spurs just now. Had they not got that goal with 6 seconds to go, they'd been on a stinker of a little run. And before that, Arsenal, remember the 5-1 defeat against Liverpool and dropping points with Southampton, etc. You're losing to them. All of these teams, in simple terms, they aren't good enough in comparison with Liverpool and Manchester City to go on these sort of runs and stick by it and keep on going. So they'll all go through the little periods. I suspect it's who does what over the next, I'm trying to say, 9-10 days in the transfer market, because Spurs need to add something just now, we know, because of the players they've lost just now. Arsenal have had a good little game against Chelsea there. They played at the top of their game. But I've watched them being pretty anemic this season as well. And Chelsea, exactly the same. Absolutely up and down. Oddly enough, the one team that's up just now is Man United. But they were the ones that were the worst of them all up until 7 games ago.
There are gloomy periods. I suppose I'm more talking about the pattern, the feel of the architecture of the club, really.
To be honest, good luck with you finding out what that is, because I don't know what it is. And I work down there a lot. They often talk about, the owner. Well, he's not allowed to spend that amount of time in the UK anyway, because of the passport situation. Marina, who's supposed to be the head of the whole football thing, have you ever had an interview with her?
No.
I haven't. So who's bringing in the players? Well, as I say, I work around there quite a lot, but I couldn't tell you. So it's the indistinctness of how it's going. So you don't know what the plan is and where the plan is. And that's what makes me think, in the times going past, I've always thought, oh, can we not get a manager that we like, that we can stick by, that will, if things go badly for 6 months or a year, we stick by him.
Yes, exactly.
Well, okay, that may be the case with Sarri now. Well, I hope they do stick by him for a wee while, because he's hardly had a chance. And by the way, they're still fourth.
Well, that is the intriguing thing now. If history is anything to go by, there is a distinct chance that the lads will say, all right, Mauricio, we're done. and they'll be allowed to, and he'll be gone, and the cycle will repeat. Much of the talk about the Arsenal game is about Jorginho. So can you talk to us about Sarri ball, what it means to you, what you've seen from Sarri ball, and how Jorginho's fitting into that, and what it's doing to Kante, and is there a way out here for Mauricio Sarri in the short term?
Well, oddly, I've studied it very, very closely, that specific area, very closely. Long period, he's still got the most passes for any player in the league, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, very good. Still not created a goal, still not getting an assist yet. But that ain't his game. His game is to keep the ball, move possession around, drag players out of possession, all that sort of stuff. But against the teams that are probably below, sixth place, it's working a treat generally. Generally, it's working well. They've dropped very, very few points. And even at home, against the likes of Liverpool and that, they're doing, the system seems to work okay. It's adaptable. When they do that closing down of Jorginho, he either moves into a different position and drags people away. It's usually a centre-forward. I can remember Firmino doing it, dropping into that area. Just the other week, a similar thing happened to Newcastle, dropped Rondon into that area as well. Problem with these teams do that, David Luiz gets on the ball. And have a wee look at what he's doing when he's on the ball at the moment. He's pinging them all over the place and picking out fantastic balls. So it's a kind of, you don't know whether to stick or twist the teams that are below the top six and the home games. However, when they go away from home, and it's Spurs, and it's Arsenal, and I suspect Manchester City, I'm going to the Man City game that Chelsea are playing as well. I don't know if that's good enough. In fact, it's not. It's not been good enough unless something adapts in that period of time between now and those games. So yes, Sarri ball works to a degree, but is it working in the way the Liverpool do, and it's a joy to watch? Nah. Is it working the way City do it? Nah, absolutely not. But he will say the same thing. How long did it take Klopp? How long did it take, Pep? It took them a wee while to get this going. And it gets back to your original point, which your first point you made to me tonight. He's having a go at these players and saying things about these players, which might be a coded message of, some of yous ain't mine. You're not mine. You're not my style. I need other players that can do it to a different way. It just remains to be seen. And nobody knows, well, he get the time to do that. And at the moment, you talk about Chelsea, but hey, same happened to Manchester United. They didn't fancy Josie after a while, so they down tools. And look what happened when he walked out the door. So it's not an easy one. If I knew the answer to it, or if anyone knew the answer to it, they'd tell you. I have a suspicion that you'll find out a lot more, as I say, in the next 9 or 10 days, depending on who's brought into the club.
Okay. I mentioned Liverpool beating Palace 4-3. It's starting, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, was it just me that really, it was the first real time I thought, well, it's not a low-key game, but it's Crystal Palace. And there was this fevered, emotional atmosphere akin to the Brendan Rodgers 2014 run. It just feels like it started, and it has started early. The countdown is on at Anfield every time Liverpool play now.
Well, this was the third game I've been to at Anfield this season.
Ah, you were there, right?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
Okay.
And it's not just on the pitch; it's off the pitch as well. There is something extra special in the stands as well. And having played at Anfield many, many times over the years, it's an annoying get of a thing to have to play against, because the power of the Kop and the entire stadium, and now it's bigger, and when they turn up the volume, it's extraordinary the volume you get with it. And that second half, the first half they played okay, quite well. They were 1 goal down, tactics were going really well. Roy Hodgson had put it, he could see where the weakness was, which was really interesting tactical battle, which I adored what Klopp done, and with lots of tactical things going on, they're playing a slightly different system now, but they had to put Milner at right back, and I thought that was perfect. I thought that's what he would do, and he did do it. What I didn't expect him to do is put Milner at right back against Zaha, and then say, right, go and play right wing now. You think, what? You can't do that. Zaha, you'll never catch Zaha. Of course, Milner's massively creative in the first half. He creates a very, very important goal for them as well, but being right up in that byline. Okay, Speroni didn't cover himself in glory at that point in time. However, he also got absolutely trashed by Zaha defensively and ended up getting sent off for 2 tackles on Zaha. But that tells me what I need to know almost about Jurgen Klopp. It's okay. I know there are weaknesses, but I will just face everybody up with the most positive thing I can do. And I loved that about it. It was a joy. And the fans are reacting to it brilliantly as well. So they had a few players missing. They didn't have a real right back. They were up against one of the most skillful players in the entire league. And they still didn't bat an eyelid. They still did the Liverpool thing, the Klopp thing. And these players believe in it. Certainly the stadium believes in it every second of the way. And it was just sheer force of humanity that made them win that game. It was a joy.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, Pat, that you were there, like in the ground, you get a sense of it. So at any stage in the first half when things aren't maybe going their way, like those jitters, did you sense any players reacting negatively to it in any way? Or was it just, as you described, that sort of positivity that it would turn, that it would change?
I didn't actually think they were playing that great in the first. They were okay. There were good moments in it, but, you know, they didn't deserve to be 3-1 up or anything like that. But there's just this belief around that place that they've got enough good players. They've got enough people that can turn it on. And they've got enough from their manager as well. I mean, remember watching the game recently against Manchester City, where the first time this season I was dead disappointed in them. I thought they were negative at the start of that game. Both fullbacks weren't overlapping. I thought, that's not a Liverpool way. You're going to blow it. Now, it nearly worked out for them. And remember when they went and goal down, they came back and stuck their two, Robertson got the made the equaliser in that game. But in the end, you get beat with Man City. But I was disappointed for 45 minutes and Liverpool were as negative. It's okay playing in the break sometimes. They've got some good players to do that. But at home, at Anfield, destroy teams. You've got everything in the armoury there, which it sounds like cliche now, and I've been saying it for so long, and I think everyone's saying it now. As long as you keep Van Dijk fit, you have got a brilliant chance of this league. If you've not got Van Dijk fit, you ain't going to win it.
So are you of the opinion then, based on if we view the Milner thing, his positioning as a microcosm, that maybe the best way to keep feelings of nerves and jitters at bay is almost to do what he did with Milner, that attitude right across the rest of the season as a message, both consciously and subconsciously to your team that, well, whatever happens, we're going for it this way, and that's the best way to attack this?
I think so. If you think, I mean, they've now and again they've played as a breaking side, and I've seen them. I've seen the weaknesses now and again. I was over in Red Star in Belgrade for the Red Star game, and they had that day there where they didn't go and attack it the way they should have attacked it, and they lost that game. But apart from that, how many games this season, apart from Champions League away, are they going to be that negative? They're not going to be that way. They don't need to be that way. They're so much better than everybody, than the vast majority of the rest of the teams. Away from home, there's an Everton game come up, I believe, off the top of my head. There's a Manchester United as well, yeah.
West Ham, they have West Ham away soon, I think so.
That could be a toughie, but Arnautovic not being there might make if he's not there, that make a big difference as well. I'm not saying they're all easy games, but there's not many games I think Liverpool will sit back and play in anything other than the ultra positive way, which they should do, if they can keep everybody fit. And that's still a bit of an if they can keep everyone fit. The other thing you say, Mo Salah was another one. I didn't think he had that great a game. He scored 2 goals, but he didn't even have that great a game. And that's the other thing that's added to them. I think the players are beginning to believe this now. We all don't have to be brilliant. It doesn't have to be as beautiful as it was last season. They'll still score goals. They'll still create.
It's just so intriguing at the moment. It's fantastic. It's great to have this title race. So what do they have? They've Leicester coming up, West Ham away, Bournemouth at home, then Bayern, then 5 days after that, Man United away, then they'll have Watford, then Everton away, then Burnley at home, then Bayern again. And then suddenly it's going to be into March. Fulham away, Spurs at home, Southampton away, Chelsea at home, and then Cardiff, Huddersfield, Newcastle, and they finish up with Wolves at Anfield. That's kind of where we are.
That sounds good, doesn't it? If you're a Liverpool fan, that really sounds good. And everyone's looking at those 3 games out of 4, I think you said there. You know, the Bayern game, and then you've got Everton,
United
which
away.
is going to be tough. Yeah, just going to be tough. And then United away. So that you've got those 3. It's all in. They're all March, aren't they? So that I think everybody looking at that now, thinking, right, they'll probably keep a little bit of gap until then, and it's all about keeping their nerve after that. I wouldn't say I heard Danny Murphy saying, I believe. I'm not saying I believe in Liverpool, but this is now serious, and they've got as good a chance as anyone else. I would say they're now, I would go so far as to say, I would push it right to the limit and say they're joint favourites.
Okay. That's good enough for now, I'm sure. Listen, pleasure. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a million.
Look forward to it. See you guys.
All right, cheers. Pat Nevin there with us every Monday. We're talking to Dan about